All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine you have a guarantee. I'm not talking about a flimsy promise. I mean a solid government-backed guarantee for a place to live. You'd think you're set, right? You'd think you're safe. But what happens when that very safety net gets so tangled up in its own red tape and technology that it actually ends up trapping you?
That's the voice of Tamitra Nunn. And those words, from a really desperate call she made, they cut right to the bone of this whole story. This isn't just about some paperwork mix-up. This is about the real, devastating human cost, when the systems that are built to help us just completely fail.
You see, Tamitra's story is this unbelievable battle she had to fight on two fronts at the exact same time. On one side, she's desperately trying to find a home, and on the other, she's in this grueling fight to get the disability benefits she was already approved for. It's just a perfect storm of systemic gridlock.
So, let's tackle that first fight, finding a home. This is where a financial promise that should have been rock solid just slams into a completely immovable wall.
Okay, so first, Tamitra had a guaranteed disability income coming in every single month. We're talking over $2,000. This wasn't a maybe or a hope. It was a steady, reliable check meant to provide some real stability.
And if that wasn't enough, she had an even bigger guarantee on top of it. Dallas County was ready to pay her rent directly to a landlord for 2 full years. I mean, from a money perspective, you literally could not ask for a safer tenant.
But this was the answer she got. Just a flat, blunt, we do not participate in any programs. And this, right here, is the ultimate catch-22. The very help that was designed to get her a home was being used as the reason to deny her one. The issue wasn't the money. It was where the money was coming from.
But, this rigid policy wasn't just coming from a person at a desk. It was being enforced by technology. And in a really cruel twist, the digital tools that are supposed to make things easier, they became the biggest barriers of all.
And this is where you can see the huge disconnect. I mean, look at her actual financial reality. Steady Social Security, pay stubs, and a county subsidy that guarantees 2 years of rent. She's golden. But the landlord's automated screening system, it saw something totally different. These third-party tools, they're built to scan for regular paychecks. They couldn't process a government subsidy or even a correctly formatted Social Security letter. To the computer, her income didn't exist. The technology was just completely blind to her reality.
And then, in this totally bizarre turn, after months of fighting this, she gets an automated welcome home email and actually signs a lease. Can you even imagine the relief? But then, just as fast as it came, it was gone. The property manager just voided the signed lease, claiming she misrepresented herself by using the exact housing program she had been totally upfront about from day one. It's just unbelievable.
So, okay, after that door slams shut, she tries again at a different apartment complex. And here, the problem wasn't a rigid policy, it was something else entirely, a total breakdown in communication, just complete and utter system gridlock.
And this is the bureaucratic loop that she got stuck in. Look at this. Tamitra needed the final rent amount from the landlord to give to her caseworker. Simple enough, right? But the landlord wouldn't give her those numbers until the caseworker approved the application. And the caseworker, well, she couldn't approve anything without the rent numbers. Everybody was waiting on everybody else, and the whole thing just ground to a halt.
This put her in a totally impossible spot. The landlord is telling her, you gotta sign this lease right now to lock down the apartment, but her housing program had a strict rule. Do not sign anything until we send an official pledge letter. So what does she do? Does she listen to the landlord and maybe lose her funding, or does she follow the rules and probably lose the apartment? There's no right answer.
And honestly, nothing captures that feeling of just screaming into the void better than this. In the middle of all this chaos, she sent a text. It had a PDF in it explaining her legal rights as a survivor of violence, and it just never went through. It was never delivered. A literal cry for help that nobody ever got, which is just a painful symbol for this entire nightmare.
And these system failures, these digital glitches and communication breakdowns, they aren't just frustrating little annoyances. They have a devastating, real-world price.
This was the number on the eviction notice she eventually got at that second apartment. And I want to be crystal clear here. This wasn't because she couldn't pay. This number represents the cost of a system that just couldn't get the guaranteed money from point A to point B in time. It's the price of pure bureaucratic friction.
And this is the real human cost. In another one of those calls to Social Security, just trying to explain how desperate she was while waiting for the benefit she was owed, Timitra made this brutal, heartbreaking admission. It's a raw statement about the extreme things she was forced to do just to survive while the system spun its wheels.
Now you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, isn't this illegal? And yeah, the truth is, there are laws on the books that are designed to prevent exactly this kind of thing from happening. But there is a huge, huge gap between the rights you have on paper and the reality you face on the ground.
I mean, there are protections like the Fair Housing Act, which says landlords have to make reasonable accommodations for disabilities. Like maybe adjusting an income rule to accept a guaranteed subsidy. Then you have source of income laws, which make it illegal to discriminate just because someone is using a voucher, and VAWA, which protects survivors of violence. All of these laws should have protected her.
But here's the kicker. These laws, they don't enforce themselves. The burden falls 100% on the tenant to somehow know all their rights and then find the energy and the resources to fight for them, all while they're in the middle of a crisis just trying to keep their head above water.
So after this year-long battle, what's the takeaway? Her story really pulls back the curtain on a system that's so arbitrary your entire future can just hinge on a single random decision.
Just think about it for a second. It's the same person with the same assistance program. At one apartment complex, a rigid, automated no created a year of homelessness for her. But a few weeks later, another landlord just gave a simple yes, and she finally had a home. The outcome was completely random. It all just depended on the whim of one individual.
And that leaves us with this final massive question. We build these complicated safety nets with all the government agencies and the technology and the landlords to catch people when they fall. But when those nets get so tangled in their own rules and red tape that they actually trap people instead of helping them, whose job is it to cut them loose? It's a question we're thinking about long after this is over.